Welcome, everyone, to the show today. I am excited to bring to you a very unique and special episode. I'm JJ Flazanes, and this show was originally intended for my Spirit, Purpose, and Energy show, Women, Men, and Relationship, Fit to Love, Health and Wealth, Nutrition, Alternative Medicine. But as I started to put together my notes for today's show, I was going to be a solo episode. I mentioned it to Doug Sandler on a walk one morning, and he said, "Ooh, I can contribute to that."
That's a great one. Great topic.
Well, then I'll invite Doug on, and that'll be a great conversation to have. And then, of course, well, guess who's here this weekend? Michael Neeley.
Hello.
And I thought, well, let's have Michael Neeley contribute because we're coaches and we could all contribute from our point of view. So we did a really fun thing. And before we continue to explain what we did, and I'll position today's episode for you, why don't we introduce the other contributors to today's episode and the shows that this will be airing on. Let's start with you, Mr. Doug Sandler.
Did you say formerly or formally? There's such nuances in the English language, right?
Yeah.
So my name is Doug Sandler. I am host of the Nice Guys on Business podcast, Turnkey podcast, sales training for podcasters, co-hosting with, of course, you, JJ. And it's very nice to be reintroduced to your community in a slightly different capacity because I think a lot of times I don't come to the table with a coaching hat on. I come to the table just as your partner and a guy that actually is a huge supporter of the stuff that you do. And I love doing podcast episodes with you. And of course, I like doing them with Michael as well. So thank you for coming up with this topic. I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation. And I know that you'll set it up properly so that our listeners today and the communities that are listening today, all of them will understand why would this message actually appeal and apply to everybody that is listening to this episode, no matter what platform. You could be listening to Nutrition and Alternative Medicine today, and you will get a slightly different variation, but the same idea from those of you that are listening in the Nice Guys on Business community. So, Michael Neeley, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, brother. I am excited to be here. Thanks for having me, JJ. And I am the host of multiple podcasts as well. Consciously Speaking, my flagship show, originated in 2014. My other shows are Buy This, Not That, and of course the PodQuest Show, and Something to Whine About, which I co-host with the two of you. So much fun to do together. And I will say that I love this topic because it was actually in a coaching session with one of my clients where my whole love and introduction to podcasting was born at one of those sessions. And along with what Doug was saying, I think this is super valuable for everybody because this is important for us to look inside at ourselves and go, am I coachable?
I just had a colonoscopy and I was looking inside myself also.
Several people were looking inside you at that point.
Yeah. Okay. Don't scratch that, JJ.
You forgot to mention the Mustang podcast, just for anyone who's listening who has
No, I'm actually not going to, because...
I know you're not going to put this episode
Right.
on the Mustang podcast, but everyone
You want people to know about it,
across
right?
the board
True.
who's listening might
True.
be interested in the Mustang podcast.
Well, then, if that's the case, if you're a fan of other podcasts also, I have a show called Ford Mustang, The Early Years. If you have someone in your life that is an early generation, first generation owner of a classic Mustang. And if you have, interest in the entrepreneurial community, of course, the BizWiz podcast is there. If you like TEDx style conversations, SEDx podcast is one that you can listen to, all that I host. But wow, there's many podcasts.
I know. Between the three of us, we have a network and a
It's
half.
insane.
We'll put the link in the show notes to everyone. After you're done reading the show notes, it'll be your next birthday. So
I came up with this title after a few sessions with some clients, and I thought, why, as a coach, and as from personal trainer to life coach to relationship, whatever capacity I'm using my skills to help someone better their life or business. You come up against people who have blocks, and we use the Big Leap in a lot of the work that we do. We use some of the psychological tools in the Empowerment Strategist training program to look at what those blocks are. And quite honestly, like they're the same across the board, no matter what industry that you're in. Now, your point of view is going to be different, which is why the three of us are going to do this in a unique way.
round robin.
We're going to round robin this bitch. And
Wait, did you just call me a bitch?
No, sorry, I took too long of a pause there. We're going to round robin this bitch. It's the 5 reasons why you may be uncoachable. And I'm enjoying that now in the recent month, really, like in the last 4 weeks, on a solo walk or sometimes just being in response to the world, I'm coming up with some really great topics to talk about on the show and to do some education around. So I had the guys. I already had my list because, like I said, I was going to do a solo episode about this, and then it just sort of blossomed into what we're going to have, hopefully, a really meaningful and powerful conversation. The 5 reasons why you might be uncoachable, and rather than each of us give our list, because we could do that on our own shows, we're going to do one at a time. And I do want to start off by saying, and we'll each, so for those of you that are listening on other platforms, other stations, other shows, we've listed all of our shows. And if we're all going to share the show, you could be coming from Michael Neeley's community or Doug Sandler's community. So you're thinking, who are you? JJ, I don't know you. I don't know what you do. So I just want to frame it so that way you can know who you're listening to more. And they could all apply to all of you, but who I serve two different populations. The first population are spiritually interested, doesn't have to be a spiritualistic person, just someone who's curious or very spiritual, who understands or is interested in the law of attraction, and who is going through something and wants to have relief and a better life. Like there's just something missing, whether it be in your relationship, with money, you want more abundance, and the law of attraction works, but you haven't had it work for you yet, or in your relationship. So that's who I serve. People mainly in that one group that, again, the overview is spiritual and law of attraction, astrology, those kinds of spiritual principles, and science, a lot of science, but they really just want a better life. Like you've been yearning for something. People find my show. I do not advertise it. They find it because they are searching. If you feel like you are searching for something and it's deeper than something like you're shopping, then that's one group. And then the other group is I also serve podcasters who are already established, that are serious business owners that want to they want to connect with communities and build a strong, connected, responsive community. And they are mission-based, spiritual-based, like all-inclusive health, whatever. That's my next population. So, Doug.
Okay, so you want me to talk about just who I serve best? Yeah. So I serve the entrepreneurial community. When I always call it getting to know your mom. For those entrepreneurs that are listening that know their mom already, their market, their offer, and their message. If you know those three things, as a podcast coach, my job is to teach them how to connect their products and services with the community that they are building. So if you know your market, your offer, and your message, if you have an established business, but you're looking for a unique value proposition for those that are in your community to connect with you, I find that podcasting is a great way to connect your message with your community, to connect your offer with your community, and certainly to connect your market even more so to what you do.
So you're specifically a podcast business coach, not a business coach separate from podcasting.
Correct. I don't do any business coaching unless they are thinking about using podcasting as the tool to reach their community. So if somebody comes to me and they say, hey, I need a good business coach, I may refer them to somebody like Michael, or because Michael has a whole bunch of different verticals that he works within, I really specifically stay in that micro niche of podcasting.
Okay. And Michael?
And for me, I serve podcasters as well, but for me, you nailed it, Doug. That's just kind of like the tip of the iceberg or the tip of the spear. I do coach in business, and I have that whole entrepreneurial audience, and I look at it more from what I'm serving are visionary solopreneurs, people who have a message to get out to the world, but what I'm working with them from is how to establish authority and to build the back end of that business so that your authority gets out there, your message gets out there, but it does so in a way that is also going to support you financially so that you can spread it bigger. And then I also serve the spiritual crowd too, what I call spiritual seekers or conscious explorers. So I serve them as well, more from my podcasting space, less from coaching programs. I don't really have any stuff around that for spiritualists, but that is where my podcast, Consciously Speaking, comes in.
So let me own the conscious spiritualist coaching. How's that? Can I own that? Okay.
Sure.
Okay, cool.
You can own that all you want to.
I know.
Take it away, JJ.
Yeah. Well, no, you contribute to that, but like you said, you don't really have any products or programs or tools for that, but
Correct.
I do. Okay, so here we go. Let's start. Now, I went to rewrite this list, and to me, I looked at it and I thought, you know what? This is really many different ways to say the same thing, but it's going to land on people differently. So I'm going to start with one.
And before you give your first one, if you give one and it's on our list, can we also agree that it's check that's on my list also? Because I think that would be good.
Yeah, we don't need to do 15 by repeating the same one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So my first one, and this was inspired, is that your only goal is to get out of pain. So for me, in the past, I use the physical therapy realm as an example. When you go to physical therapy, you literally only go to physical therapy to get from pain to no pain. You don't go to a physical therapist and say, I want to be a bodybuilder. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to be lean. I want to change my blood pressure. You go to a physical therapist to get you out of pain. So it's normally some kind of short-term program of 3 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever, a couple of months. And that is not the kind of person that I'm necessarily looking to work with full-time or work with in a serious way, because I have my show. And for those of you that listen to Spirit, Purpose, and Energy, you know that you can listen to my show for free and get a whole lot of it out of it, change your entire life, and never pay me a dime. It's free to you.
So I just want to make sure I understand this, because it's extremely unique, and I was not expecting that to be your first one. I want to complete the sentence. You may be uncoachable if you are only trying to get out of pain?
Yes, because it's not what I do. I'm not the short-term, quick fix, get rich fast, get thin fast kind of person. The work that I do is deep and meaningful and transformative, and it takes more than a day, and it takes more than a month. And it doesn't mean you coach one-on-one with me or anything like that. It just means that you're not being pulled by your passion, you're being pushed by pain.
Okay, so it's interesting. Again, I want to come back to this because I want to make sure I understood the question, which is partly why before we hit record, I said, can you explain a little deeper what you're looking for? I see that you're sharing that you may be uncoachable if you may not be my client for coaching.
It's a little different.
That's
I see what you're saying, Doug.
Because that would be, again, I'm not saying that that's wrong at all. I'm saying that you may be uncoachable for my business. I looked at it as the overall question of you may be uncoachable if, like, okay, grand, you may be uncoachable, you may not be my client. But I completely respect where you're coming from.
Well, I'm thinking about some of our clients or past clients.
Yeah, and I want you to use not to throw anybody under the bus, but use an example of someone that actually is, if you can, without giving away too much of the farm here, explain what that would be, because I think it might apply to a grander sense of the market that you're talking to.
Yeah, and let me add to the question as Doug's asking you, because the other piece is someone who does just want to get out of pain and they go to a physical therapist, they're coachable.
They are coachable.
They're just not your client, right? Because that's not who you want to work with.
That's not what I offer.
So that's why I want to be sure. Exactly.
I do give short-term things to get out of pain, but if you're on this journey with me or the things that I'm doing are about, it's a longer game.
Okay, and let me add to this. I think the expression lessons will be repeated until learned applies to you, because people that are just looking to get out of pain and are willing to be coachable to get out of pain oftentimes are not willing to go the next step, which is really understanding how to not get back in that pain again.
Right.
Okay, so that's kind of I think where you're heading with what your expression.
Well, I had this epiphany like a week ago. And I was like, oh my gosh, this person doesn't actually pay attention. They only are willing to do as much as they need to just to get out of discomfort. But they actually don't have, and again, like I said, all of mine kind of are the same thing said differently. But and I'll use the expression again, you're being pushed by pain versus pulled by passion. You don't have a big vision. You don't have a grand thing that you want. You literally just want to get out of crisis.
Okay.
And sometimes when someone's in crisis, and they're always in crisis, you may be the short-term fix. I'm not interested in short-term fixes. So for me, I don't want to work with someone whose goal is a short-term fix. So that to me is where you're uncoachable for me. And again, that's why I had us all talk about what we do, because I'm not about the short-term fix.
Okay.
I get it.
You want to go or you want me to go?
Sure, I'll jump in because mine is kind of plays a little bit on that. So one of mine is that your motivating factors, pain or pleasure, be it one of those, which I believe those are the only two things that motivate us, either acquisition of pleasure or avoidance of pain, they're not strong enough to overcome your inertia. So for me, many clients will come to me, but as an example, let's not even use one of my clients, but let's use something that everybody can get, weight loss. I could stand to lose 20 more pounds, okay? But the pain or the pleasure are not a motivating enough factor to really get me in action to lose that weight. Now, if I were going to be in a bodybuilding competition or something in a month, that would be enough of a pleasure factor for me to go. Or if my doctor said, hey, Michael, if you don't drop 20 pounds, you're going to die. That's the pain avoidance I will go through. So I think for many people, they don't have a high enough pain or pleasure factor to motivate them to move them out of that inertia.
Okay. Again, that's some of mine kind of
falls in,
sound
yeah.
like that, but Doug, what's yours?
No, you want me to read one of mine?
Well, do you have any that sound like ours?
No. You guys have so far two very unique things, and I don't think that they are. I think that they are extremely accurate. They're just not what I have seen as the process for my clients that come to me, and after a month or 2 months of coaching, I'm like, I probably should have spent a little bit more time working with them on these you may be uncoachable ifs. And you kind of have to have a what my dad used to call an upfront contract with people when they enter onto your client list. It's, hey, I want to share with you reasons why oftentimes people are uncoachable. And if you feel like any of these is throwing up a red flag, can we talk about that before you engage my services? So one of the ones that I came up with is you want to see the whole you are uncoachable if you want to see the whole process laid out before you get started. I can't tell you how many people want to see the entire picture from A to Z. And as a coach, even someone we've probably launched with our company close to 250 shows. And each one has a different journey. While the template may remain the same, and I can explain the template, your interpretation of the template in your world may be different than somebody else's. And you could have 249 extremely unique processes in place using the same template. So you may be uncoachable if you want to see the whole process laid out. I won't be able to do that for you. And I would really highly encourage you that if you are looking for a coach that's going to lay out the whole plan ahead of time, that may be more of a rubber stamp coach. And I'm not sure that that's a coach you want to work with.
Yeah, if I could add a little bit to that, Doug, for me, as you're talking about it, what it's kind of like would be for someone to expect, okay, you can tell them, I'm going to get you from Los Angeles to New York. And then they want to know, well, I need to know the exact route you're going to take me to get there. And it's like, well, I don't know. Weather patterns may shift how we have to move, or road blockages or anything else. So it's going to be uniquely different for each person, but we know the destination.
Exactly. I can tell you where we're going, and I can tell you where we are right now. I just can't tell you every single step along the way. I can give you some milestones that we're going to accomplish along the way, and we'll be able to determine, what is it called, KPI, key performance indicators. Mm-hmm. I will tell you the key performance indicators that we will hit along the way, but I can in no way lay out the entire journey for you ahead of time. And if you need to know that, I think you're a little bit of a control freak, and you need to back up just a little bit.
Well, actually, my number 3 is your addiction is control, and the ego, your intellect and your ego defends your need to be right. All those are two different ones, but your addiction is control. So for someone who, like you said, needs to know every step of the way. Now, for me, the way that shows up, because in personal development work, people are unwilling to take a risk. They need to know, they're waiting to feel comfortable, but the whole point is what they need to learn is how to be uncomfortable. So their addiction is control. So that person you're talking to, that business person that wants to know all the things, they're uncomfortable being vulnerable because their addiction is control. Well, in self-growth, you have to let go of control or you do not get better. The whole journey is about letting go of control. So if you're addicted to control, you are definitely not my client either, or someone that I would want to work with, or someone that would get anything out of what I'm doing, because that's the point.
Well, if your addiction is control, and I want to just fine tune this just a little bit. If your addiction is control, you may be uncoachable. Not that you wouldn't be a good fit for JJ. That is a given. If your addiction is control, JJ probably isn't the right fit for you or any coach. So you are uncoachable if your addiction is control.
You're uncoachable in a life coaching, relationship growing, spiritual.
Agreed.
If you think you're going to get there by controlling circumstances, controlling people, controlling yourself, not being vulnerable, good luck.
But who comes to the table saying, JJ, I really want to hire you as my coach, but my addiction is control. So nobody knows that until they get into it.
But when they hear it, this will resonate for those of you that know. They've heard me talk on my show. For those of you that are new to me and don't know me, everyone has an addiction. Everyone. And most of us have multiple addictions. Everyone has a way that we numb and repress emotion, period. And some are hard addictions and some are soft addictions. Hard addictions would be alcohol and drugs and not food, but alcohol and drugs and anything that changes your brain chemistry quickly, that's a substance. If it's a soft addiction, it could be food. Okay. Food addiction is definitely an addiction. When you overeat, you eat too much, you eat because you're nervous. You go to the refrigerator in the day 15 million times because you're looking for something, but it isn't in the refrigerator, right? But control is an addiction, and it's look at the world right now. Control should be, if you want to see what addiction to control looks like, just read the news, look around. There it is. So that was one of mine.
Okay.
And
all right. So Michael, throw another one our way.
Okay, so this one is one I see a lot, and that is that some people will come to me for coaching and they don't actually want to change. They think they do, but they don't really, because they're too comfortable in their status quo.
So staying in their comfort zone, status quo. If you are uncoachable, if your comfort zone is the only place you want to live.
Because the truth is, if to move outside of that comfort zone into that unknown, it's a scary place for many people.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It very much is
and so
a big
they'd
deal.
rather be comfortably uncomfortable in the space that they're in than to move into this zone of the unknown.
But I think, so how does that manifest itself? What does that look like? Because again, I think a lot of people don't realize that they are refusing to move outside of their comfort zone.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, the clients that I've had this experience with is they'll sit there and go, yeah, that sounds great. Oh man, yeah, I got to do that. And then they don't do anything. They don't take action.
That's when someone needs to go to a traditional therapist to just be seen and heard, and to have that connection, because they're actually not required to take any action. And I don't mean any disrespect to the regular therapist, but it really is, because one of my sub was that the payoff for staying stuck is greater. So I had a client years ago when I was just a personal trainer. She was an older woman. I'm going to say she was in her 60s, late 60s, and she was very, very obese. She had some condition that made her, put her on disability, and she became super, super obese, very not functional. And her husband took care of her, waited on her hand and foot. Her son bought the sessions from me as a trainer. I spent many months. We had a Pilates machine. We did literally, and I'm a great problem solver. So I don't care what your situation is. You're pregnant and you have something wrong. You've a muscle you tore or you've hurt. Like, I will find a way to give you a workout, no matter, I've had 7 injuries, 10 injuries, and I can still find a way to safely give somebody a workout. So I have this woman and I try all these different ways to help her take responsibility for her health. And then it hit me one day and I realized, oh my God, she doesn't want to get better.
No.
Because the payoff for getting better is that her son stops paying attention to her, and her husband stops waiting on her hand and foot. And the fear then probably sets in that, oh my God, who am I? And they will maybe leave me. Like now I control them in a way. So I realized that the payoff for getting better was worse than, right? I mean, like, she needed to stay sick to get the attention she was getting. That sick card, when you play that sick card, you get love and attention. And so I'm right with you there, Michael. And now, Doug, what is yours next?
So here's a reason why you may be uncoachable. You may be uncoachable if you confuse being busy with being productive. So many of my clients will come to me. Again, these are all problems that you have to be able to work through. And if you can't work through them, look at yourself as not blaming your coach, but actually taking Michael said it, you find out a lot about yourself. You got to take a deeper look inside. So many people can't take action because they're too busy. You know, we'll have a coaching session, and if we do, some of my clients are a once a month meeting. Some of them are once a week, but let's take the once a month meeting. They'll come back to me literally 30 days later and haven't taken any action because they got so stuck in their rut of being busy, but doing unproductive things for their business. So you confuse being busy with being productive.
I love that one.
Okay. I'm just going to, one of mine was sort of what you were talking about, Michael. So I'm just going to say it so we can let it go. It's your why isn't strong enough.
Yeah.
Your why isn't stronger than your fear.
Yes. It's got to be strong.
Yeah. You're not,
and
again,
sometimes you might even have to create that artificially. So I've actually worked with clients on that to go, how can we improve either the pain or the pleasure? So literally to the point of going, okay, here's the deal. If you don't do this action, okay, let's say it was, I was talking to this client about relationships, and she's like, I just want to put myself out there more. I want to go on dates. I'm on this matchmaker.com or whatever, some dating service. I said, okay, so here's the deal. Let's make a deal. You're getting asked out on dates, but you're turning down a lot of them or whatever. Let's make the deal that you need to go on 1 date a week. And if you don't, you pay me $500 more. So that adds the pain factor there. They don't want to pay the $500. Like, okay, dang, now I got to do it. So you can create these artificially if you need to, but put something in place that will either motivate you or demotivate you, one direction or the other, that you need will help.
Doug, let's give you another one.
You procrastinate. You just put things off. You just are, your paralysis through analysis. You just don't want to, and I think you said it earlier, you just don't want to take action.
Yeah.
And you put everything as a priority ahead of this. A lot of the getting outside your comfort zone is a result, you procrastinating sometimes is I don't want to step outside of my comfort zone. You not taking action, procrastination, you confuse being busy. All of these are excuses. So maybe instead of just calling it you procrastinate, maybe it's you have excuse-itis. Everything is an excuse why you can't do this. And again, a number of clients through the years of coaching, I have found that are uncoachable just because they just can never get to it.
I know. I'd love to procrastinate, but I just keep putting it off.
Maybe that's it.
So to piggyback on that one, Doug, I kind of have that you're addicted to your story. So when you're addicted to your story and you refuse to get out of victim mentality, because it's always something else, it's always some reason, it's just a lot of words for you're afraid. And procrastination, to me, in my world, when someone is procrastinating, it's because they're not in alignment with what they want. So I actually see procrastination not as a bad thing, but as a misdirection.
Well, it certainly is a signal.
It's a symptom.
Yeah, it's a symptom. I said signal, you said symptom, right.
But there still is a piece of, for me in doing things, why am I procrastinating cleaning my office? Well, because I don't want to and because I don't need to. So why should I go sit there when I have other things I'd rather be doing? But when we're talking about that's something little. But if you've signed up for coaching, you pay money for a program, you say you want something better than you have, and then you don't do anything about it, it's more than out of alignment at this point. You are literally addicted to all of the reasons why you can't do it. And again, it goes back to some of the other things we've been talking about. Your why isn't strong enough. You don't have enough pain or passion that's pulling you, and you're just afraid. So just be honest. You're just afraid. But you always have a choice. And you guys know, those that listen to my show, I'm not a big take action for action's sake. I don't want you to waste time and energy and money doing stupid shit that is just because you're taking action.
Well, wait, but let me throw a little argument at that. If you are hiring a coach and you just don't want to take action, and that coach is telling you the action to take, and you feel like you're taking action just for action's sake, but your coach might have a better reason why you're taking action. Sometimes taking action for action's sake is actually, for me, for my clients, I'm like, don't worry about why. It's not coming through to you. Just know that in order for you to get from here, New York, to Los Angeles, these are the steps that you're going to need to take. So for me, it is oftentimes, and you've heard me say this with a number of our clients that we have together, it's like, why don't they just take action? We're telling them we've been down this journey before.
Because they're addicted to their story. They're unwilling to get out of their comfort zone because the payoff for staying where they are is greater than the risk and the fear of what happens if it doesn't work.
Yeah, and my listing that I had, which is just on spot with that, the way I worded it was slightly different, is that you're more committed to your complaint or your issue than you are to the change. And part of the underlying piece of that is because you can develop an identity that is embedded, intertwined with your complaint. So much so that you wouldn't know who you would be. Like you were talking about the client who, the woman who you said was in her pain and stuff, had people waiting on her. She's so addicted and in that complaint, she wouldn't know who she was.
Right.
Your identity. Your
absolutely.
identity
She was a queen. Yeah. They waited on her, gave her things she was unable to physically do too much, which is why everyone had to wait on her hand and foot. Like when I could take a step back and see that, I was like, oh, she's never changing. Yeah. Unless she's close to death, and even then I don't really think, I have no idea. It's been so many years. I have no idea what happened to her, but.
Can I give another one? Cause I think this is one that's on my list. I don't know why it was number 5. It actually should have been number 1, but you may be uncoachable if you're not willing to invest in yourself. I think that you have to be willing to, whether it's through barter or through monetary exchange or something, you have to pay something in order to get a value out of the something that you want. You have to pay, whether it's through barter or dollars, in order to be coached. Because I think that if you just, you have a mentor, it's like you'll find a reason why want to take action. You'll find a reason why it's easier to procrastinate than actually to get into activity. So for me, you're not willing to invest in yourself, and that's a reason why you're not coachable.
Yeah, and Doug, I love that you said that, and that's not one that I had on my list, but one of the things that I've seen in our industry, particularly in coaching, that sometimes there's this little, it's almost like a double-edged sword of it, but some people will charge more for a program, maybe even than what you feel like you're worth that you're getting, because they know that when someone pays that amount of money, they're going to take action.
Well, I think
they're going to be
committed. I think about that as my entertainment, my DJ business. And for those that don't know what I've done in my past life, or maybe many of you in all of our collective communities don't, I spent almost 30 years as a bar mitzvah MC. And as a guy that would charge typically between $5,000 and $7,000 as a bar mitzvah MC, and still working 75 to 85 bar mitzvahs a year, do the math. It's a really good living. There were many DJs that were in the $300 to $500 category. And I would find when I was in that category in the early 90s, when I was charging like $500, $600 to do it, my biggest pain in the ass clients were the ones that I was getting paid $500 to $700. The ones that pay you thousands of dollars, they basically hand carry you to the event. Their expectation for what you deliver is certainly high, but they have a lot of value. They provide, they associate value because you're charging a lot of money for what you do.
Yeah.
Money is energy. And what's funny is I'm sitting here thinking about my live event that's coming up, and I can already hear and feel some of the people that are, let's say, in my Inner Circle membership. Those of you who are listening to this who have not bought your ticket yet, I know probably why. You're thinking they have a scarcity of money. Well, you know how to fix a scarcity of money?
Spend money.
You have to spend money.
Yeah. Money's like a blood flow. It's like if you crimp a space of blood, it's like it stops the flow. And the same thing with money. It won't flow either direction. It needs to flow out to flow in.
Right. And the reason why people they're hanging on to their purses and they're like, oh no, it's just a lot of money. It's like, yet you have a scarcity of money and you want to overcome that, but you're not going to do the thing you need to do to move the energy in the right direction. And the underlying thing is because you don't believe you deserve it. And that's my last one on my list. Well, actually I have another one, but is that you don't believe you're uncoachable if you don't believe you're worth it. And that's where the money shows the worth.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
You're uncoachable if you don't think that you're worth it. I could not agree with that one anymore. That is perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to come to the table with some belief somewhere, some part of you, even if it's a 1% of your being that knows. That's why I didn't want to work with cancer patients for a long time with Dr. Nation and stuff, because the root cause of cancer, like one of the emotional roots of cancer, is giving up. I don't have to convince somebody to live. If you've decided you don't want to be here, whether it be consciously or unconsciously, then that's your business. I'm not going to try to influence you and beg you to stay, because I don't believe we actually die. We just recycle. But I understand. But let's just talk about somebody who's not dying, who has no issue, but you don't want more for your life, or you just don't believe that you're worth it. I can't work with 0% and inject a belief into you. So if what I can do is take 1% and grow it into 2%, into 10%, into 50%. I can help you do the things to attract things that reflect back at you your worth. I can start to find under the unconscious beliefs where you remember who you really are, and you know to value that. But the only way, literally one of the only ways that you're going to break through scarcity of money is to invest in yourself, because it literally does the opposite of scarcity, where you're saying to the universe, I don't know where money's coming from, and I'm afraid of it, and I'm afraid of losing it, I'm afraid of spending it. You literally say, this is a confidence, an energetic confidence. It says, I'm worth paying attention to, I'm worth working on, I'm worth asking for help, I'm worth spending the time to do the work.
I also think it opens up a different door for you. It opens up the door of, now I've invested in this, now I actually need to do something. Now I need to actually pay some money in order to, I'm paying this money, and now maybe action is the thing I need to take. So maybe that's the leading indicator for you, is the money. The leading action for you is, I'm paying out money. Now that I'm paying out money, I guess I need to take some action now, because I don't want to lose that money.
Yeah, it's like I was saying, why some people even charge more, because they know that the more they charge somebody, that the more that person will be invested in taking action.
Oh, from first year to second year mastermind, I doubled the price.
Yeah.
Different energy. different energy. And no disrespect for any of you that were in the first year mastermind, but my pricing was reflected on my lack of confidence in myself.
Even as a coach, we need to understand that value as well.
I knew I was worth more, but I decided to charge less because I wanted to test myself out. It was unproven for the mastermind. And so I felt comfortable because at that point it had been, one of the highest offerings that I had. But I knew that I was undercharging when I did it. But I wasn't confident enough yet to set my sights a little higher and say, no, I'm not accepting less than this. And now, I doubled it, and I'm not doubling it again. And for some of you, it will go up a little bit. For otherwise, it's the same as last year for the mastermind, because I'm like, okay, this feels good. And for the empowerment strategist certification, that's gonna, from beta to next, will be double because of the value I have for myself and my time, my knowledge, my skills, my expertise. I have to value that in order for me to say, here's the boundary. No, I'm not willing. You're listening to this episode and it's free. No matter what show you're listening to it on, it's free. And the three of us put out a lot of free content, like a lot. I spend so much time putting out free content, and that's awesome and amazing. And it's great for you. But we pay for it. We pay for all the things. And so, yes, we attract the right people to us, but then we also have to pay the bills and have a lifestyle, and that's what we want to do. So I have to have some new boundaries about things that what's worth my time and not only like you were talking about, Doug, with your DJ business. There's some meme that was going around that we were passing around on in the groups and on text chains, like that the $500 client is asking all these questions, and the $5,000 client saying, "Where do I pay?" Like the $500 clients, "Oh my God, I talked to my husband and my wife, and I have to check my credit score." Well, depending on if it's a man or a woman asking, right?
Right.
Anyways, but it was hilarious, and it's true, and it doesn't mean that it cuts those of you out. Those of you that think, "Oh, I can't pay $5,000. I can only pay $500." Just start somewhere, because you're not going to create any momentum doing nothing. And here's where I agree that taking action on the journey, on the path that you want to go down, especially if you're going to invest in a coach, listen. And if you don't agree, that's cool. Find a new coach, or at least just try it, because what else do you have to lose other than to say it didn't work? Because part of so Doug and I do a mastermind VIP experience for podcasters who are already established, who are making money on their podcast, but want to grow a community and create their own economy. So in our podcast mastermind that we had for a year and a half, one of the reasons why it had to be a 12-month program was because podcasting and building a community is a game of testing. I come from the business perspective of, you don't know what's going to work. All you can do is test your idea, see if it works, see how it flows, and see if it doesn't. And then course correct and continue, or rinse and repeat. So when it comes to the short term versus the long term, I believe that some people need those 12 months in a business coaching program, in a podcasting program, in a life coaching program, because you're on a journey and you have to see what works and what doesn't work. You don't know going into it. All you know is you have a problem. Here's where I want to go, and here's what we're suggesting you do next. But the whole idea is that it's more long-term thinking versus short-term thinking. For me, is more of my kind of client. And those of you that are out there who are afraid of spending money or afraid of making money, you have to do literally the opposite of what you're afraid of in order to get that momentum started. So, Michael, I think you had one more.
Yeah, I've got one last one that we haven't really covered yet, and that is that I find that a client's uncoachable if they're unwilling to be radically honest with themselves, and or in this process, they see my coaching as criticism instead of support. And so where that ties in with the radical honesty is that,
wow, why'd they hire a coach to begin with if they feel like, if they're going to get all sensitive on,
but they do. Many of them, it's almost like they hire you to be a cheerleader instead of that person who's going to give you that tough love and say, "Hey, this is what I notice about you. You're lazy. Okay. And this is how it shows up." And so, but some people aren't willing to be radically honest with themselves about the reality of who they are and how they're showing up in the world. And you have to be if you're going to be coachable.
Well, I actually had another one it didn't fit into the other 5. That was my number 2 originally, which is that your intellect and ego defend your need to be right.
Oh, so you're a Capricorn.
Yeah. or there's some placement in there. But I've had that, and I've had someone who wants to check off the box of, okay, I tried what you said and it didn't work.
Hired that coach.
I hired that coach that one time, and I listened to what you had to say, even though I was never open to it. because I don't actually trust you.
Yeah, I tried coaching. That doesn't work.
Right. Oh, yeah, I tried that. That doesn't work. Right. Well, okay. And one more thing that I actually want to add to this, because I was taking notes as you guys were talking. And it kind of goes along with all of what we've been talking about today. And I was going to do an entire episode on this, but I think it fits on this episode more appropriately. A lot of times with coaches, we'll say, we meet you where you are. And we meet you where you start is where I'd like to change that phrase. I don't want to meet you where you are. You don't like where you are. You like where I am, which is why you're hiring me in the first place. Or you're hiring somebody like me, whether it be Doug or Michael. Like, if you want to make more money, I can teach you how to do that. If you want to be happier, I can teach you how to do that. I don't want to meet you where you are at misery. You want to be where I am, which is happy, which means if I'm saying I want you to do this thing, it's because it's going to break the patterns that you've created in order to get closer to where you want to be, which is not always where I am or where these other coaches are. You don't want my life, but you want to feel better. You want something. That's why you're attracted to us, or that's why you're listening, or that's why you want to grow. But I want you to think about when you say, I want you to meet me where I am, and we all would meet everyone where they are. But I want to change that phrase to I want to meet you where you're starting. But in order for you to change and to grow and to get something different, you absolutely have to do something different. You can't keep doing the same thing, telling the same story, reacting in the same ways, not spending any money, not investing in yourself, not taking risks, not being vulnerable, and expect to change. It's illogical.
It's highly illogical, Spock.
I would say that if I had to pick one on my list that stood out the most coachable clients for me are the ones, in my opinion, that are willing to take action. Because I think that of all of the things that I have written down here, trust is extremely important from a client to their coach. You have to trust your coach. So in order to hire a coach, trust whoever you are going to hire. But you have to be willing to take the action that the coach is sharing with you. They're not telling you to do something that is that's going to be unproductive or that hasn't been successful in the past for them or their clients. So for me, taking action is extremely important. And you've heard me say that over and over again. I know sometimes you even give me some pushback, and I'm willing to take any critique that you have about taking action. But for me, that's by far my biggest.
And as you said that, Doug, you reminded me, there was one other that I didn't say yet, which is a little bit related to that. But this is that the result you think you want and the change required to get there aren't congruent.
Okay.
Now, I want to give this a little bit of explanation for it. What I mean by that is, let's say someone comes to you, JJ, because you're, master in fitness and diet and everything, and they say, I want to lose 20 pounds and give me the right diet. And you go, diet ain't going to do it. You need to do some exercise. And they go, well, that's not really the way that I wanted to lose the weight.
I love the clients
so they become uncoachable.
Come to you and say, well, no, that's not what I want. I need to do it this way. I'm like, well, why are you hiring me to begin with? I'm like, if you already knew it, then you would have done it.
Yeah.
Right.
It would be like somebody coming to us and going, hey, I want to grow my audience, but I don't want to do a podcast. I want to do it on YouTube. Why are you coming to me?
That happened. I want to grow my podcast audience, and I want to do it through advertising.
Right.
And we said that would not be the best way to do it.
Yeah.
And that person said, well, that's how I want to do it. We're like, well, then we're not a fit, because that's not what we teach, and you can make a lot more money. It's about conversion, not about downloads. Unless you're trying to get advertisers and that's your only goal and that's the only way that you want to monetize in that way, we're not the right fit for you.
We do have clients that have approached us and potentially hired us. Even I think we had one client that hired us that once they hired, or if you're thinking about hiring them, that coach, the process is different than you thought it was going to be. So you pull back and say, well, that's not how I want to do it. And understand that we don't want to put you through a practice of something that's going to be more difficult than what you're doing now and not being successful at it and having you not be successful through our coaching. We want to put you through the process that we know would work best for you based upon the conditions that you present to us.
Yeah.
Well, and what I learned in the last couple of years is that I can't...
Not everybody is our client. I know that.
Well, I know that not everybody is our client, but I knew that from my own personal life coaching, business coaching, health coaching, relationship coaching realm. It was when I tried to insert myself in business and thought I could leave all that behind. Because when I see that half the people we work with...
Yes, I agree with you.
The issues they have is not taking action.
Right.
It's because they don't believe they're worth it.
Right.
They do not believe they deserve better, and they're addicted to their stories. boundaries, and the addiction is the payoff is greater staying stuck.
I do find though that once you prove to someone through their own actions a little bit of success, I find that sometimes you can go beyond those things and you can actually solve those in the meantime as well.
Right. It really depends, in my opinion, on someone's ability to think outside the box and be flexible and vulnerable to whatever the lesson is. And that's where I know for me, that's why I don't promote my Inner Circle mastermind anywhere else except on my own podcast, because I don't want anybody else, because everyone who's coming to me knows what I do, and now I'm applying it to business. If I have to go to your audiences and say, hey, I'm a business coach, and they come in and all of a sudden I want to dive deep into their childhood and their love language and their astrology and their relationships, and they're like, whoa, what the hell are you doing?
That's why for you, online marketing isn't necessarily the solution to the problem of how do I get more clients. Everyone that becomes a client of yours, JJ, which is a great way to do it, is directly through your community. You've already built the know, like, and trust factor to a huge degree, and they are coming to you already pre-sold on the idea of they need to take the next step in order to improve. You actually, of all the methodologies that we have, I think that you probably have the most solid growth plan of all of us. I mean, I love doing it the way that I do it because I don't have to worry about nurturing a huge community. I mean, nice guy community. I mean, I appreciate you tuning into this particular episode and all the episodes that you've listened to over the last 7 years, but you don't take action. And you don't really sell them anything. Exactly, because they have trained me not to try to sell them.
Yeah.
They've trained me that online marketing is the way for me to market, and not necessarily through nurturing my community. My approach, if given to your community, would not work for you. Well, your approach would not work for me unless I decided, hey, I'm going to spend a lot of time nurturing my community. But what's interesting about all of this is it's still the same bottom line. You are not coachable if all of the same reasons apply, no matter JJ, Michael, or my reasons.
Yeah, and I want to add one too, and a little bit of a question with this, JJ, because one of the things you were saying, hey, if you want to be happy, come to me. That's the type of coaching you do, and I think happiness is a great example of this area of what you think you want and the change actually required to get there not being in alignment, and therefore you might be uncoachable. A lot of people think, oh, I'll be happy if I make more money. And we see it, and they're not. Mm-mm. Or they think, I'll be happy if I own that home, and they get that home, and that still might not be what makes them happy. And so if you think these things are what will do it, you need a coach like JJ in the happiness realm to go, that ain't it. Let's dig deeper first.
I gave on the last Inner Circle Business Builders Library, which I'm going to change into an academy. Stay tuned for that. But Jeff, poor Jeff, I ran him up and down the wall because he's an internet marketer, right? And
right.
And he talked about, well, what are people actually buying? And I said, well, what people are buying from me is that they want to be happier in their relationship. Well, what results do they want? They want to be happier. And I said, let me step back. And I had to go, let's go law of attraction here. The only reason why we want anything you want is because they're going to be happier, period. And he's like, right, but people buy things. I'm like, great. So then I'll sell them. Wait, I can do the trick. The gimmick is here. I'll sell you weight loss, but I'm here to sell the truth, which is you have to be happy first, even be in alignment and vibrational relevance to attract the results that you want. Same thing with relationships, same thing with money. And so thank you, Michael, for passing that back, because one of the reasons why I wanted to do the show, most of you know, is that we're really quickly approaching my very last manifestation bootcamp, which, by the way, both Michael and Doug will be there.
That was good, Michael.
Wow, look at that. That wasn't even planned, or God, the throuple.
That was unrehearsed. That was just complete mind melding right there. That was great.
Now, Doug was at my first manifestation boot camp, and Michael's been at 2 of my Releasing What Weighs You Down. So both of them have been to events. In fact, Doug will be emceeing. There'll be dances and DJ and all kinds of activities.
We're going to have some fun.
We're going to have a lot of fun. And one of the things that I wanted to put out there again to my community, and again, if you're listening on someone else's show, you're welcome to check it out as well. And only, of course, if it's in really, really strong resonance with you, do I want you to actually look it up or take action. I am not by any means trying to encourage or sell to anybody who's not in my own personal community to come to my event. And the reason is because I do need you to trust me when you walk in the door. I do not spend time talking about myself or giving you my backstory or showing you why. I don't do that because everyone comes in already knowing me and trusting me so we can get to work. The Manifestation Bootcamp is literally about putting you through practices and exercises every single session that break you out of your comfort zone, get you into a new vibration, get you thinking differently, change your neural pathways. It's an extremely active event that's going to change you and shift you in a way that even me as a coach, somebody recently asked me in my group, what if I just invest in you and I do some sessions with you? And I said, honestly, I can't give to you what being in a live room can do with other people. And you guys we've all been in many live rooms together. Would you not agree that a live event can absolutely make a bigger, stronger shift in somebody faster than having a conversation one-on-one?
My first circle time was great. Emotional enema is what I would call that. Wow, what a great opportunity to really take a deep dive into your inner works.
Yeah. But so the boot camp is coming up. It's October 1st through 3rd. If you're wondering that the world is falling down, all I'm going to say is the world is always falling down in some way. And I would say this is the last opportunity to do this work with me like this. I never know from year to year because my business grows so much. I do so many new things. I launched the Empowerment Strategist program earlier this year. So I don't know where I'll be next year. So I can't commit to say that I'm going to do this another time. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'm not doing it. I'm almost 99% sure I'm not doing it ever again.
Get there.
So this is it. This is the opportunity that you have to take action. And I've said this over and over again on my show. If you are in my community and you are feeling that you feel it resonates, but you have scarcity of money and you're like, but I don't have the money. I've told you 15 million times, reach out to me. I will help you. I will find out how to make a payment. Don't make money be the reason why you don't come. All right? Please do this for yourself. If you believe in yourself. If you do not, if you are someone who feels like you've listened to everything we've said today and you're like, okay, well, I do believe in myself and I do take action and maybe I'm a little bit of a control freak, but I'm willing to let that go. Or I do want to defend myself, but I'm willing to change because I feel and see something for my life that's greater than what I have now. And I really want it. It's jjflizanes.com/bootcamp. Again, that's jjflizanes.com/bootcamp. It will be in the show notes, the link. And you can reach out to me and just ask any other questions that you have. My assistant, Ashley, or I have other people. I've done a show called...
Hey, my assistant's name is Ashley also.
Yeah, I wonder where you got Ashley from. You got Ashley from my show and from me. And anyway, so I have lots of other information that I could share with you. But I really just wanted to impart on you guys. You know, we're in a time where... The feeling of the world, there's a cloud of fear, and it's really, really easy to say, you know what? Everyone's afraid, everyone's mad, everyone's hiding, everyone's cocooning. I'm just going to follow suit and do what they're doing. And all I'm going to say is then you're going to get the life they have. You have to ask yourself, who do I want to be and what do I want to have? And how much longer am I willing to wait for it? If you want something different than you have right now, if you are tired of waiting every year for it to be the right time to do something about it, or for you to be done having fear, you're not going to get rid of the fear. It's called feel the fear and do it anyway. How many times, Doug, Michael, have you been afraid of taking the next step in something? You were afraid, but you knew you had to, so you felt the fear and did it anyway.
Too many times.
Many times.
Yeah.
Many times. I would feel like that was how my brain was when it came to hiring the first coach that I ever hired. You know, how investing in my own business, making a leap from my entertainment business as a bar mitzvah MC to professional speaking, writing my book. I mean, all of those things in order to get the things that I wanted to get out of life. And I'm not just talking about money. I'm just talking about the freedom and flexibility to move to California from the East Coast. All of those things. You can't do any of those things unless you're willing to step outside your comfort zone, take action, stop procrastinating, invest in yourself, put the pleasure or run from the pain or whatever it is. All of those things are essential in order for you to be coachable. And I love this episode. And as soon as you came up with the idea, JJ, I'm like, oh, well, I have some ideas that I want to present, which is why I said to you, let's do this together.
I didn't have to do any arm twisting. As coaches, this is what we talk about. You know, we talk about our clients and and honestly, it's not because we complain about our clients, it's because we want to help you. And we get frustrated when we can't do what you hired us to do.
And I want to say this. Oftentimes when you hire a coach, you're not hiring the coach for the action steps in order to get that process going. You're oftentimes hiring a coach to help you get inside your own self to fix the things that are going on inside you so that you can take the action steps. You can take action steps oftentimes by going to Google and finding out, how do you launch a podcast? How do I go on a diet? How do I get more fit? How do I do? But the inner work, that stuff that's so essential, I find even as the bar mitzvah MC that I was for decades, I find myself oftentimes being a psychologist for my client than actually the template provider or the action step taker. So again, if you guys want to comment on that, or we can wrap up the episode.
We're going to wrap up, but it's about the accountability. And I think people don't value accountability. They may think it's like a waste of money. And I have told my mastermind this. When I hired my bookkeeper the first time, to come to my house. I hired her to come to my house because I knew that if I didn't put somebody in my chair, nothing else was going to get done. So she literally has to sit at my desk, at my seat, so that I could clean my office while she was doing my books.
I thought that was a little unusual, but when you told me that, I didn't even say, oh, why does she have to come here? You are 100% right. You said that many times, like, to have her sit in my seat gets me out of my seat and doing other things in my office.
If I have, well, you go to your office not that your office is, you need to do anything else but sit in your chair, but you see me, if I'm sitting in my chair, nothing else gets done.
Yeah.
Now, I needed help with bookkeeping, but the minute I invested in bookkeeping, I started making more money because I knew I wasn't going to do it. And I know we needed the help. So the only thing I'm going to say is that if you feel like you actually are worth having a better life, whatever that means for you, having more abundance, having better relationships, manifesting the things that you want. And if you're really tired of waiting, I just implore you and I encourage you, come play with us. I promise you, transformation will happen. It happens every time. I see it every time. Now, don't come if you're a pain in the ass and if you're going to defend the need to be right. No, I don't want you there, and I'm not interested in you.
Who would label themselves? Michael, would you label yourself ever as a pain in the ass?
Always.
jjflazanes.com/bootcamp. You have a few weeks to get on this already, okay? Take action now. Don't wait. Get your travel plans. You can get a roommate. We can help figure it out for you. But jjflazanes.com/bootcamp. There are some tickets left. I'd love to see you here at the very last Manifestation Bootcamp 2021 in Redondo Beach, California. You can fly, you can drive, you can train, you can teleport yourself there. God, I wish that was a thing.
Just be there.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
I don't have any live events, so you guys will never get to see me unless you come to JJ's event or Michael's event. I'll be at his event also.
This is true. Yeah, so check that out, as well as we'll plug the rest in the show notes. Michael's got a live event coming up.
Sure. PodQuest Live. If you're interested in the podcasting space and building influence and authority, then you can come to PodQuest Live, which is October 15, 16, 17.
Yep.
And if you want to grab a cup of coffee in Ojai, I will be here. So you're welcome
there. I'm all over that one.
To come to Ojai. That's my only live event. It'll cost you $1.49 right at Ojai Brewers. What's it called? What's the name of the?
Coffee Roasters.
Ojai Coffee Roasters.
Yeah, come on. I'll buy you the cup of coffee. You don't even have to spend the money.
All right, guys, I hope that you feel a little inspired. Hopefully it will motivate you to take some action. Please take some action. Any action after this episode would be great. Create that positive momentum, and I hope to see you in October.